Are K-pop fans, P-pop fans, and other pop fans from other parts of Asia obsessed with songwriting credits? Do they really believe idols and other pop stars should write their own songs, or are they just using it to put other artists down? Should we really expect singers and dancers to write their own songs? Why are actors more respected when they act scripts written by other people, but singers are castigated for singing songs written by other people? These are loaded questions, and to be honest about it, this topic actually deserves its own documentary. But I'll try to do the impossible and give the highlights. One thing many people don't know is that the practice of management companies getting people with good looks to sing songs written by other people and training them to move seductively traces its roots to the early years of prostitution. The practice of selling looks, not the substance. Of course, that needs to be explained. But first, for us to be able to understand this songwriting issue, we need to go back to the history of music. Yes, history of music, which actually traces its history to the history of civilization. So, you better get food and water, you're going to be here a while. Hi! Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. I would really appreciate it. And of course, share the video if you can because that's really helping my channel. Okay, so are K-pop fans really obsessed with writing credits and they don't really care about the quality of the music that is being written? They're just concerned about being able to claim that their idols or their biases are actually the ones making their own music. Let's go back to the video. The beginning of music coincided with the birth of spoken language, which started 4,000 years ago. I'm kidding, we're not gonna go there. Even scholars don't consider that topic to be worthy of serious discussion. Let's go to the history of pop music. And in the beginning, there was opera. The birth of pop music was in 1679 when the first opera was actually penned by Alessandro Scarlatti. Since then until 1900s, the opera became the popular form of music entertainment. See, that was fast. However, somewhere between 1600s and 1900s, the young bourgeoisie got bored and started to use faster beats in their music during social gatherings. In other words, rave parties. Well, at least their version of rave parties. That gave some kid from a rich family in Germany the idea to open a dance hall with waltz, mazurka, and polka as the dance beats. That was disco, beta version. Show me the happy and show me the money. These dances were couple oriented and put a man and a woman closer together when they dance. The church didn't like it. They called it the pagan dance. However, by 1700s, Paris learned how to fuse opera, dance, and comedy. That's what we know as variety shows today. Do keep in mind that this was 1700s, so there was no TV yet. Variety shows were done on stage with a live audience. So they were selling the shows to the general public or the mainstream public as we know it today. They needed for the songs to be simple and catchy, something people can sing to and make people feel light and jolly, which opposes the discipline of the throat and ear-shattering opera. Pop has changed. It also started a debate between classic and pop. The older market developed a lot of disdain towards young people who were developing tunes that would sell and not really express any kind of artistry, at least in their opinion. Further, the composers of the music, unlike in opera, are not anymore seen. It's the performers that actually become popular. And prostitution ruled the world. Eventually, the cabaret was born in the streets of Paris. Cabaret catered to artists, writers, poets, musicians. In cabarets, their weirdness was actually tolerated. Naturally, it became a fun place, colorful, where different kinds of people actually converge. The artistry evolved and advanced. As more and more cabarets opened up, owners had to make their performances more interesting, complicated, colorful. And it wasn't long until circus-like performances became popular. Quality of music became secondary. They had to appeal to the eyes more than the ears. Visuals became the priority. When Moulin Rouge opened in 1889, things became wild. Music became wild and dances became wild. Performances became even wilder. More importantly, performances were written by one person and then performed by someone else. Owners of these dance halls looked for people with good singing voices and made them sing songs that someone else wrote. The main objective is to sell shows and not really to uphold or advance art or music. As performers started becoming prettier and prettier, the bourgeoisie men hanged out there and they started befriending, quote unquote, female entertainers. It was colorful and exotic, and it created a need for music that excites. Suddenly, the waltz looked like a religious interpretative dance. Cabaret was the new pop. Meanwhile, in the US, Thomas Edison actually created the very first phonograph, or a musical cylinder. That was 1877. Opera singers started recording their songs, and people started buying the phonograph and the record, also known as the vinyl. Soon enough, prostitution in Paris actually reached the US. Singers started recording songs written by other people. Businessmen started establishing record companies with the sole purpose of selling records. No, there wasn't an attempt to grow the art. It was all about selling records. New inventions were funded to make recording faster and easier. They commissioned more and more composers left and right to write songs for popular singers. Some of the oldest record companies in the US, like RCA, EMI, NBC, actually started operating. They controlled the phonograph and radio industry in the US. There were attempts to develop singer-songwriters, but marketing efforts concentrated on women singing melodic tunes written by other people, songs that were easy to follow and easy on the ears. As foreigners swarmed the US, music and culture from Europe also arrived, including cabaret and Moulin Rouge. Record labels started developing dance groups to perform fast songs that are common in cabarets. The performers were often white, beautiful, and sexy women. It followed the same model as the cabarets. It invited the public to buy the product on the basis of the looks of the people performing it. Only two things were missing: the exotic costumes and the exotic movements. Enter Elvis, followed by the Beatles. There was one person who entered the scene, singing his own tunes without the support of a major record label. Elvis Presley. His songs were not melodic relative to that era. He was playing the guitar and he was shaking his hips, which actually prompted several countries to ban him and call him the 666, or the demon, or Satan, or whatever. In other words, they did not like him. One important thing that he was able to introduce or bring back, depending on how you want to look at it, is the culture of allowing singers to write their own songs. He reintroduced them to the mainstream. Rock and roll was the new rebellion. Meanwhile, in London, a boy named John Lennon got inspired by Elvis, so he formed his own band. Later, they became known as the Beatles. Eventually, Brian Epstein discovered them and gave them a record deal. The problem was that Epstein also wanted them to sing songs that other people wrote. They stood their ground and told the studio they were going to sing their own songs. They recorded their first album all in one day for 10 hours, singing only one cover song. This, too, paved the way for other singer-songwriters to enter the mainstream. Take note, they weren't the pioneers, but they reintroduced singer-songwriters in the mainstream, something that has not been around since the 1700s. What does this have to do with K-pop? And so 10 minutes into my video, we come to the very reason many people don't consider singers who don't write their own songs a real artist. Its roots are very, very much connected to prostitution, the practice of selling looks, not the product. In the process, that has marginalized many songwriters who don't possess the looks but have all the talent in creating art. Someone ends up making more money out of their own creation. Yes, it can be argued that music should never be about who's singing it or who's performing it, but about the song itself. And so, exactly. So, why should it matter who is singing it? The music is the lead role. That's a given. But between the creator of the music and the hot girl or hot guy, who deserves to sing it more? There are so many pop stars who can sing well and yet they debut. In the meantime, there are so many singers whose voices can take your breath away, but they are never given the chance. Also, notice how technology, specifically the invention of radio and eventually TV, influenced the development of pop music. This will play a part in the discussion later. But are fans even aware of this? Now that we know how bad the impression of singers singing someone else's song came to be, does this mean that K-pop fans who look down on idols who don't write their own songs actually believe in the sanctity of this process, or are they just using this to diss other groups? More than that, does it mean that history dictates its present essence? Things evolve, don't they? There is no data on how many fans actually appreciate the depth of a creation, or if they are simply using songwriting credits or production credits to put down other fandoms. But I will argue that it doesn't really matter. Fandoms bragging about songwriting and production credits actually contribute in making management companies aware of how giving their artists a chance to write and produce will generate buzz. That could inspire management companies to give their artists a chance to participate in the creative process and actually grow as artists. Because as we know, there are so many management companies that's stifling the growth of their artists. Of course, it does have a disadvantage. It has gotten to a point where it has become superficial. It's all about numbers, not about the quality of the song, the routine, or the concept. This is where we come in as fans. It is more important for us to be more aware and be more intentional in what we support, what we hype, and what we talk about so that we can be better judges and hopefully influence others towards the right kind of appreciation or thinking. Form versus substance. Any art has two parts or components, form and substance. In performing art, form refers to the execution of the song, dance, music videos, or others. Was the choreography executed well on a technical level? Did the singer actually sing on key? Did the clothing match the concept of the music video? Is the concept actually introducing something new in pop music? It mainly focuses on the physical aspect of the art. Substance, on the other hand, refers to the work's subject matter, in other words, the meaning. Also, substance affects form in many types of art, especially in performing arts. Let's say the late Whitney Houston sings the phone book, reciting the names and the phone numbers and addresses. She will most likely sing it so beautifully, on key, stable, and hit every note perfect. But there won't be substance to what she is singing unless you find spiritual meaning to people's phone numbers. If you do, you actually need help. Gangnam Style is another example. There are so many people who can actually execute the routine so perfect, and they are all fun to watch. But the dance itself has no substance. Performers versus singers versus dancers versus creators versus all of the above. There are performers. There are people who can act out singing and dancing. I know it seems weird, but you see it in K-pop all the time. There are a lot of idols who actually can't sing or dance, but you don't notice because they actually act out singing or dancing. They do it with fierce facial expression, by looking good, by popping their body, by posing, and giving an overall energy that makes it seem like they're actually good at what they're doing. Then there are singers, those that can really sing and or embody the emotion of what they are singing. There are dancers, those who can move with energy and grace and or interpret the music accordingly. There are creators, artists who create art, the dance routine, the song, the production design, the dresses, the music videos. And then there are those who can do it all. Each one is an artist, but they are not equal. Artists who create the song they are performing and they execute well, of course, have more depth. It is still about substance of form. Now, just because one artist created a song they are performing doesn't mean he can perform it best. Someone else may be able to interpret the song better. Does that make it superficial or fake? Not necessarily. Dancing and singing are different from creating. But there's the rub. Interpretation is absolutely subjective, which leads us to conclude that just because someone didn't write the song doesn't mean they have no form or substance. It also doesn't mean it is fake. Nothing is set in stone. It's all about choice and quality. Quality of substance, quality of form, and quality of the end product when two are put together. And whether or not an artist made a choice to participate or not participate in writing the song or in other types of creative processes. Quality of form. A group with a self-produced bad song should be acknowledged for trying, but that doesn't make their song automatically good. An artist giving justice to a song written by someone else should be appreciated, but it doesn't mean we should not acknowledge those who created the music. If a group produces, writes, and performs their own songs, but it's a horrible song and horrible performance, is that better than a group doing well in performing someone else's song? Quality of substance. While an artist may be killing the dance moves and hitting the right notes, if they are singing about their dead toenail, it is at best entertainment. But just because a song or a music video is talking about injustice and politics and social justice doesn't mean that it's automatically good. Control or choice. If a group or an artist decides under their own volition to perform someone else's song, is that worse than an artist who sings a self-written bad song? But in the same breath, just because we credit the execution doesn't mean we shouldn't be acknowledging or crediting or honoring those who create or execute and create. There are artists who get shoved a song and a music video and not given a choice what they will perform. And there are artists who choose what they will be performing or not performing. They may not have the time or skill to create their own art, but they have the ability and opportunity to conceptualize and plan their own projects. And this is where it becomes dicey. There are so many artists chosen to debut, not because they can sing or dance, but because they have the sex appeal. Worse, these idols aren't really fully comprehending what they're getting themselves into, or are left with no choice but to do what they are being told to do. And the truth is that for many artists, we really won't know the extent of their creative involvement or their actual disposition over what they are being told to do. Often that means getting over-sexualized. There are some artists who obviously exercise creative control, but there are more who just claim to have some creative control, but they don't actually have it. Still, whether or not they have creative control over their own direction has no bearing on how good they sing or dance or interpret a song. It adds to their depth as an artist, but not really on the quality of their performance, at least not automatically. But at the end of the day, art is really subjective. We can sit here all day and discuss who has a better voice resonance, who is more graceful when it comes to dancing, whose music videos are pushing the envelope, whose messages are actually more relevant. But if the song or the artist does not appeal to somebody, then there's really no point in arguing. What we can do, however, is to help improve and evolve the kind of music that is popular and the kind of music that people listen to. We need to also create a better environment entertainment for artists, those artists that we know are good, though they probably may not necessarily have the kind of general public appeal or swag that other popular artists nowadays. I know it's very hard to support artists with music or any kind of art, movies or whatever, that don't appeal to us personally, but I think it has to be intentional. We need to be able to set aside our biases, at least part of it, so that we can recognize artists that are good, even though what they are creating don't appeal to us. So it's just a thing that we all need to do collectively in order to push and help improve the industry in general. We should focus on substance and form, not just the form. We really have a lot of celebrities that have swag for days. I think it's about time that we put our focus or our attention towards artists who may not necessarily get the same type of break that other popular artists are getting. Yeah, in summary, I do think that there are a lot of fans that are bragging about their biases or favorites, writing their own songs or contributing to it at the very least, even though they don't really know the value of that, what it really stands for, or even though they don't think that the songs that their biases are writing are actually of quality. They're doing it just because it's a trump card. It's a one up, a way to one up other fans or other fandoms. But to a certain degree, as I've said, I think it does have some benefits because it gives management companies the idea that fans are now conscious of it. They now are paying attention who's actually writing the music. So it might encourage them to give their artists more opportunities to grow and actually have creative control over their own music. On the other hand, because it's now all about quantity, it's all about credits, then the quality of what's being written is not really being discussed as much. But it's, everything has cons and pros, and it's just a matter of knowing where to draw the line. And as I've said, our role, because we're aware of it, is to try and push artists and art that we know are elevating or improving or evolving the quality of art that we are consuming and are getting to us. So yeah, I hope that we just become more conscious of it. We speak up a little bit more if we know that there is something that we focus on. We learn how to focus on the right things. If we want to discuss our favorites, then maybe if we know that they're creating something good, then let's talk about the quality of their art. And at the same time, I don't think we should be scared of criticizing other artists if we know it is constructive criticism. It's very easy to spot which is constructive and which is destructive. Anything personal, anybody who says, oh, that's pretty, but they can't substantiate it, that's most likely nothing. It's just like hype. And the same way, if you're criticizing somebody but you can substantiate your criticism, then that's probably just hating on somebody. So I hope you learned something. I do want to hear your inputs though. I definitely want to see where you're coming from. So you can say anything as usual. Just make sure that you do so very, very politely and respectfully. And you have the freedom to say anything that you want to say. Leave them in the comment section below. Also, you can get in touch with me in any of the social media links that you see on your screen right now. And of course, if you end up enjoying or learning about this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe and hit that notification button so that you know when there's a new video coming up or coming out or getting published. But more importantly, please do share. Share to everybody else. Invite people so we can have a richer, wider, more in-depth discussion about Asian entertainment and culture. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Till next time.